Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk to you about the difference between design thinking and agile methodology. It can be quite confusing sometimes with these terminologies and jargons that we use in the industry, but I'd like to do it in a simple enough way that hopefully it's understandable to a lot of people and it makes sense on which one's relevant to you and how to use them together. And before we carry on further, I would really appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't shared this to your friends who's going to appreciate this type of knowledge and technical advice as well, please do so. I'd really appreciate it. Now let's get on to it. Now first, let's have a look at design thinking. Design thinking, in short, really is a mindset to innovatively create solutions and try to solve problems. So a good design thinker generally would come up with creative ways and creative processes on how to approach a problem and come up with solutions. So typically you'd use design thinking in a discovery process or trying to understand the users, the business needs, and try to innovate within the intersection of that. That's what design thinking is. And if you've heard some of our videos about design sprints, or if you've heard about design sprints in general, that's exactly what it does. The difference is that design sprint is just a lot more compact, but it uses the same tool as design thinking. Design thinking has been around for a while, and there's a lot of tools and exercises and ways for you to solve a problem, but design sprint puts them all together into one packet. So if you think about a pizza, you could go into a supermarket and try to get all sorts of different ingredients to create a pizza. That's basically what design thinking is. It's very broad, but if you're really thinking about a good recipe to create or to make a margarita pizza, then you'd go and grab that recipe book on how to create a margarita pizza or how to bake a margarita pizza. And that's what design sprint is. It's a lot more compact and specific. If we talk about agile methodology, usually it's used in a development process. So what it is really is it's an efficient development process that divides work into realistic chunk of portions, and usually they divide this into what we call sprints, which is different to the design sprint. The development sprint is like a 1 to 2 week sprints where they work on specific list of tasks to achieve by the end of that 1 or 2 weeks. So I'll try to explain how a company, a team, or basically an entity would use this together. So if you're familiar with design thinking, generally there are different processes, but I'll just go with one that is quite popular. So you'd start with basically 5 points here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the way to break this down is a step-by-step process where you go and try and understand, and you would define, you would ideate, design. This is where you go and prototype your design and things like that. And you would validate, which is the point where you do some user testing activities. So if you imagine, this is just a one-way process that goes from here to there, to there, to there, and it goes there, right? But what happens after the design thinking process, or the design sprint, if you like, essentially is an execution work. You might go around back and try and understand again, define again, ideate, design, and validate, or you might go into production. So typically when you go into production is when you shift your mindset from a design thinking method to an agile methodology method. So the way we run it is usually you'd run design sprints here, which is part of design thinking. And then once that's successful, you're comfortable to move into production, you'd convert that into a sprint. Not a design sprint, but an agile sprint. And that's where you go and work on some, I'll just do a different symbol here. I'll go with the squares. So this is a sprint planning, agile sprint planning. Sprint planning. Okay, Agile sprint plan. And then from there, imagine if there's a loop. This is what an Agile sprint looks like. It goes one way around like that. And through here, you have what we call the daily stand-ups. And if you don't understand what a daily stand-up is, it's when Agile teams gather around every single day, typically in the morning, and go through a round of 10-15 minutes of trying to address issues, trying to cover all of the topics that they are going to cover on that day, and try to make the rest of the team members aware on what their priorities are, what are they going to achieve, or understand any type of blockers that they may have that the team can contribute and give some ideas on how to solve that. But this runs for another 1 to 2 weeks typically. At the end of this Agile sprint, usually there's a review, typically like a demo, a UAT, user acceptance testing and stuff like that. But that's a sprint review. And then from there, what's going to happen is what we call, I've gone with the circle there, but that's, yeah, you get it. What happens after that is a retrospective, or sprint retrospective is when Agile teams get together and try to address challenges that they've experienced so far in the sprint, look back, try to give some ideas on how to deal with it next time in the future, and that makes Agile teams better and better as they go through the process. So once you get here, you might have some feedback, you might have some iterations list of, or even list of backlogs that you haven't dealt with, and you want to prioritize that and try and understand what's the most important thing to deal with. And that's when we run another design sprint or a design thinking exercise. And again, you'd go from here, you'd go through the same process of understand, define, ideate. You get the idea. Design. And again, once again, validate. So that's when you run another process of design thinking, essentially. What happens after that is oftentimes, again, it goes to another Agile sprint. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm going to leave it there. But the idea is you're trying to combine the best of both worlds. Design thinking is great when you're trying to come up with innovative, creative type of solutions. You're trying to think outside of the box. You're not set by boundaries. And that's why processes like the design sprint is really great for businesses, companies, teams to do that, because it's a defined process. And then at the end of it, because you've done some ideation, design, and validation work, you know exactly what type of features or ideas that are going to be pushed forward into the Agile sprint, which is about execution. This is another very effective way to try and move forward with a project in a low risk way as well. So if you combine these two, essentially you've got manageable chunk of works, realistic chunk of works that you have validated, and you move forward with a very efficient way of production, which is the Agile methodology. I won't dive deeper because there are so many different conversations around all of this, but essentially at a top level, hopefully you get to understand what the difference is, how do they complement each other, and hopefully how you can use it in your teams as well. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you like and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video. Thank you.